Not really, but yay.
Hello and welcome back to the Movie Pope Podcast. And today we are taking a look at Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's just one of these movies where what?
Close.
Well, what did I say?
Well, you said Winter Soldier.
Okay, and what?
I see
That's
what
not
you're
what
doing
we're
here,
doing.
Luca. But we're watching a Brave New World.
Well, I mean, I mean, they're just so similar. I mean, there's really nothing different about it. I mean, but we'll go ahead and dive into it. But before we dive into our full review, remember to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know down in the comments below what you think. Should we continue with these bits, or do you want us to stop and stick our head in the toilet and flush it?
No,
give ourselves a swirly.
That.
Hey, I've cleaned that toilet out pretty nice, man. I've done a pretty good job giving myself a swirly. Plus, I've got no hair, so it really wouldn't bother me as much. But Captain America: Brave New World, not Winter Soldier, came out earlier this year in February, and I gotta say, like, this is the second time I've watched this movie, and let me go over these plot points. Let me see if you can pick out the difference. So we've got Captain America here, fresh off the Avengers. He's investigating some sort of plot that runs deep in the government, and he and his good friend, joined by a Black Widow, try to find out what's going on while being pursued at the same time. They are also having to deal with a political figure who may or may not be on side, but we don't realize that the political figure is being manipulated by someone far more sinister. Any of this sounding familiar to you at all?
Oh my God, you're right. It is the exact same thing. Oh
Yep.
my God.
And I wouldn't have a problem with it, but there was one character in this movie where I had to literally throw my hands up in the air and be like, "What the fuck, bro?" But we'll get into that. So Lee, what are your thoughts on Captain America? Why don't you go ahead and lead us into this?
Yeah, it's just thank you. That was a great joke at the beginning. I want to give you a little clap right there. That was exactly that was the.
It took me 2 days to craft that one.
And it was weird, right? So I also watched this twice. I felt like it got worse each time. So I don't. Well, I guess technically it's the third time I watched it. The first time I kind of got bored of it. I just stopped paying attention. So
well, at what point? Because I got bored roughly about the 1 hour mark. Because
that's exact. Yes.
Because when I watched, I was just thinking, wait a second. Did someone in the writer's room just decide I'll just copy and paste, something from Captain America, from an earlier Captain America movie, and just go with that? Like,
yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. So, because like it starts off, and this is always, we talk about when you have a big cinematic universe, the constant need to like continue on the previous stories, and how it just kind of makes things not feel very, I would say, it just doesn't make things go right when you're trying to do this, because you kind of start off with all this random exposition about the president, because you have to, because if you haven't watched all the other stuff that all these characters have been in, you're not going to know what's happening. So like you almost have no option but to sit there and go through all this. And it has all this exposition. Then we kind of jump over to this, I guess, side mission, right? The opening mission that we have. And we get to be...
Wait. It starts off with the side mission?
Yes,
okay.
Because and to me, right, this is my huge problem with this, right? So you have Giancarlo Esposito, right? Who, obviously very famous for playing the villain of Breaking Bad, and I feel like that's all he's ever cast for now. He's typecasted as, playing this sinister villain. And I believe the villain's name is Sidewinder, if I remember right.
He's a member. Yeah, he's a member of the Serpent Society. Yeah.
Yeah, so you bring this character on, right? And you just don't do anything with it. Like, was his character at all needed for the film to make it work?
Well, I mean, I could ask the same thing about Batroc the Leaper in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, because
Sure,
because the story beats play out very much the same way. You know,
sure,
even
yeah.
even the point where he just drops his shield and he's like, "All right, whatever," because you remember in Winter Soldier, Batroc asks him, "Do you really need the shield?" And then Steve Rogers drops. It's like, "No, let's go. You know, let's do it." You know.
That's true. Yep, that's true. Good example. So, but
I mean,
yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of these examples. So
yes, there is because, and for me, it was like they introduced this character, and the only reason I have to bring him up because I honestly was like, do I even need to talk about this character because it's so unimportant to the story, but because this is how we kind of get introduced to the true antagonist, right? I have to bring it up because there's this whole thing with the buyer who we don't know anything about, but
it's Alexander Pierce, right?
yes, it might as well be, right? So, but it's just ridiculous. So, they have this like, kind of opening sequence where they do all this stuff. They fight, whatever. We learn about he's got vibranium wings now and all this other stuff that they tell us through total exposition. Because if you can't tell that it's made of vibranium, I don't know if you've been sleeping through all the other films. Like it's almost like, hey, if you see this weird purple hue, it's from vibranium because we've seen Black Panther use it all the time. So I guess
there was a
audience to figure it out.
Well, there was a little show called Captain America and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where we learned that the Wakandans decided, you know what, we're going to be nice and we're going to give you something made from vibranium because that's who we are as people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's funny, right? Because that is a great segue because after we get out of the sequence, you have Sam, and I'm just going to refer to him as Sam. I'm not going to get to the whole like Captain America thing, but I think just for the sake of the audience, right? I just call him Sam and the new Falcon, right? They meet Isaiah Bradley, right? And this is where you have to actually have some working knowledge of everything that's going on. Now, Luca, did you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah, so Isaiah Bradley, for those of you who can't be bothered and don't want to torture yourselves for the next 10 hours, he was he was subjected to the super soldier serum in the 50s. He went to Korea and he fought Bucky when he was still the Winter Soldier, and I think he ripped his arm off.
Yeah.
And then he spends the next 50 or so years being experimented on and imprisoned and all that good stuff. I was gonna say, like, he kind of plays the same role that Nick Fury plays, because Nick Fury kind of gets shafted quite a lot in TWS.
Yeah.
So
Which is it's really weird that they have this super soldier that they don't utilize that could have been very helpful in a lot of situations.
Well, to be fair, they didn't utilize him in the show either. So
yes, that's painfully true. So you have
I take it back, because they do utilize, we do get to see him use his super soldier powers like in a very brief scene, but you'll get into that later.
Yes, we will very, very soon. So because that's pretty much where everything actually gets kicked off, because you have Sam brings Falcon, they meet Isaiah Bradley, kind of this former super soldier, which is he well put together, is experiment on, had all this stuff going on. So he has this distrust for the government, for people, for the president. So all that stuff is kind of happening.
Well, he's got an axe to grind against Ross in particular. Did you notice that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There seems to be like a lot of that stuff that's leading up to, I guess, why they're trying to make this character like just like, I guess, kind of have a reason for doing what he's about to do, because they try really hard to put it in, even though if you're an audience member, that he's clearly not of right mind when it's happening. So I don't know why they try to like generate a lot of that happening.
Well, not even that, because I mean, if they're if they're implying that he has an issue with Ross, I would like to know, what exactly did Ross do to you, specifically to make you all cheesed at him?
Yeah, because it feels like he just holds this grudge on the government, which I'm not going to debate upon, right? Like, if you've been experimented on for decades, I totally get it. But obviously Ross was not the one that was in charge or doing that over the course of this happening. So
right.
It feels like he kind of is like, oh, I dislike the government. So then like everyone that's related to it he just hates them immediately. So I mean, I get it, but then in that same token, it's always hard to kind of understand that rationale.
Mhm.
But eventually, our trio here of Sam Falcon, New Falcon, right, and Isaiah, they go to
I mean,
this
you can just call him Phil. I mean, that's his
Phil.
name. Yeah.
Got it. We'll go with Phil. I like that. Go with Phil. So they end up going out and they're going to meet the president, who's Thaddeus Ross, right, from the old Hulk films. So they're kind of rekindling this character, this time played by Harrison Ford. So to me, it was kind of interesting to see Harrison Ford playing this role.
Did you remember that one scene where they were showing clips from the Incredible Hulk where he's actually sporting a mustache?
Yes.
I busted out laughing when I saw that.
Yep. Yeah, it was good. Like they're trying so hard to interconnect all this stuff. Right?
I was like, I don't know what y'all are trying to do, but it ain't working.
They're trying so hard. They even brought back poor Liv Tyler, right? They brought her back from all this stuff, right? So our trio, they're meeting good old Thaddeus Ross, and it literally takes 25 minutes before there's anything of substance to me that happens in the film, because we see that Isaiah, he ends up shooting or attempts to kill the president.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so Luca, right? You've seen a lot of films, right?
I like to think I have, yes.
Yeah, all right. So whenever you see, like, if you see a film, and I was describe it to you, someone is brainwashed into attacking a political figure. What's the first film that comes to mind?
Manchurian Candidate.
Thank you, right? The Manchurian Candidate, right? It's such an obvious thing. And I'm like, as I'm watching this, I'm like, are they Manchurian candidating us? Like, is this what it is?
But to be fair, I mean, when the Russo brothers made Captain America: Winter Soldier, they openly said, yeah, we were also influenced by the Manchurian Candidate. So there seems to be some sort of odd dependency on this particular film by Marvel Studios.
Hey, I mean, Manchurian Candidate, good, right? Original one.
Yep.
They also did a sequel, but we're not here to talk about those.
Right.
But yeah, it's so distracting when you're like clearly taking this plot right out of another extremely popular film. And I like how the director was like, why do people not like this? I'm like, because it's not original, right? Like you're literally just
you had another Captain America movie borrow elements from the same fucking movie.
Yes.
Because at least when they did it then, it's like, oh, this is quite new, like espionage in a Marvel movie. Wow, I've never seen this one before. And also, to be fair, they also borrow from the Day of the Jackal as well. So I mean, that's at least with the Russos, they were pulling from different movies. Whereas here, it's like, well, let's just borrow from the Manchurian Candidate because nobody's ever heard of this movie before.
Yes, very true. So, but yeah, so Isaiah tries to assassinate the president. Plan is foiled, and I'm going to put air quotes around that, because really we'll find out later that wasn't truly the plan. But for the sake of argument, the plan doesn't go through. Ross is still alive, and Sam is on a mission to figure out what exactly is going on, and why Isaiah did what he did, knowing that he was clearly being manipulated in some fashion.
Well, keep in mind too. I mean, the reason why Ross wanted Sam to come was because he wanted to relaunch the Avengers, which is kind of rich coming from a guy who basically wanted to, bone the Avengers and shut them down from day one.
Yes, yeah. He has a very weird character that kind of I don't feel like is very consistent with it, which is why this is always my problem when you try to like revive a character that you used a long time ago, is that you already kind of have the basis for what this character should be. So when you don't like show how things have changed over the past 20 years, it makes the audience question his motive.
And that's the theme too, because the recurring theme was people don't change. Or at least that's what Sam initially believes is, yeah, people never change. They always stay the same. So the fact that Ross comes in, it's like, oh yeah, I want to relaunch the Avengers. I just did a double take. I'm like, wait, what? Like, my guy, you spent the past 18 years doing nothing but trying to kneecap the Avengers, all the way back to Civil War, and all of a sudden you're saying, hey, the Avengers might be a good idea. I'm like, I'm sorry, who the fuck are you?
Yes, I could not agree anymore. Like, this is the problem, and I mean, just one of the problems is the severe whiplash that comes from these character motives changing on.
I mean that blip must have done something to Ross. I mean,
yeah,
clearly
it's wild, right? So you have Sam, so he starts to like do these investigations. I like how he runs back into Giancarlo Esposito, Sidewinder, whatever his character name is, and he like is able to incapacitate him, where we find out more about like, hey, someone's actually manipulating everything.
Did that
behind
scene
the scenes.
I'm sorry to keep going back to these parallels, but it's just too tempting. I mean, that scene is so much like when Nick Fury gets pulled over and he gets ambushed.
Yes,
and I'm just like, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I've got my face buried in my hands to the point where I'm nearly suffocating myself, and I'm like, God, like, please, like, they could have made any other movie like Captain America. They could have done an alien invasion because they even reference it at one point. They're like, how many alien invasions has Steve Rogers stopped? I'm like, you could have done a third alien invasion movie and it would have been far better than this.
Yes. Yeah. And that brings up a great point. I'm going to segue really quickly to that, right? Because to me, this is like the biggest crux of it, right? So we find out that the person that's actually pulling all these strings is Dr. Samuel Stearns from the old Hulk films, right?
I was hoping it was Alexander Pierce. I love Robert Redford.
Close, right? Very close, right? Arguably same ideas and motives, but no, a different guy. And this is the thing that really just drove me crazy on this quote unquote reveal. We're watching a Captain America film, but you're drumming up all the stuff about the Hulk.
So basically, this is a Hulk sequel, right? This is the Hulk sequel that we should have done it.
Right? It feels like it's more around those characters than it is Captain America, right? Like this is
so have you noticed that Disney like has a propensity for like, starting off, a movie or a show focusing on one character, but it kind of segues into another character.
Yes.
Like Boba Fett, for instance. It was basically another season of The Mandalorian. And now we got Captain America, Brave New World, where it basically should have been the Hulk 2 without Bruce Banner.
Yeah. And it drives me crazy because it's like, this is Sam, and correct me if I'm wrong, because, there's a lot of films out there now. I want to say this is his first solo film as Captain America, right? So like he's supposed to have like, picked up the mantle and, this is supposed to be his thing, but he's overshadowed by all these characters from the old Hulk films. And I'm like, kid, Captain America, does he not have any original stories? Like, this is a character that's been around.
Apparently not, because they're copying and pasting Winter Soldier here.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, how could you not come up with something interesting for the first Avenger, right? Like, I mean, his comics have been out for 70, I don't know how long, decades.
I mean, it's close to 100 years worth of material.
Yes.
So I mean, and there's at least like 30 years of material with Sam Wilson as Captain America in the comics. So it's not like they were like scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah,
really.
And your oyster.
And you kind of have to wonder, like, I mean, did someone try reaching out to Mark Ruffalo, and did Mark Ruffalo just say, "Nah, screw it"? Like, is that why they decided to go with the Captain America label instead of the Hulk label? Did Mark Ruffalo finally come to his senses and was like, "No, I think I'm gonna do Mickey 17 instead"?
Whatever it was, right? Clearly, bad decisions were made, because it absolutely floored me that I'm like, I'm not even really watching a Captain America film. Like, he plays second fiddle to everything else that's going on. There's just almost no point. And that's the part that really got to me. And then, of course, I like how they try to explain like how everything happened. And it's totally just...
Yeah, the I mean, it would have been better if they just said nothing, because saying nothing would have been far better than them explain. Because because the explanation that Stearns gives, I'm like, dude, you're the smartest man around. You could have easily gotten out of here. Why the fuck are you still staying in that place?
Yeah, like this is supposed to be like one of the smartest, if not the smartest person that exists, right? Because he got enhanced by the Hulk serum, right? So like literally you're sitting here and like his whole reason for doing this. So President Ross, right, blames Stearns for like everything that happened with Abomination, right? So Ross imprisons Stearns, right? And then Ross ends up having this like heart condition, right? So he goes to the person that he's imprisoned and blame everything on to get like a heart medication. And I'm just like, am I crazy? Like, that's gotta be the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life.
Because last time I checked, I think Stearns was a physicist, not a medical doctor, right?
Yeah,
So what? I mean, that would be like, Lee, that'd be like you going to a podiatrist to find out what's wrong with your heart,
Yeah, it's not in my wheelhouse. Now, I can't at least like just say like, okay, like maybe because like he's super smart, like he could get into all this other stuff. But I think just the principle that why would you, if you were to imprison someone, why would you ever entrust them with your life to fix an issue? It just fails on its premise. It's like, cool, I put you in prison, but now I want you to like give me this like heart medication, and then like I will eventually let you out of jail, right?
So wait. So how exactly is he manufacturing these pills? Like,
who knows?
Does he have like a special machine or something?
I don't know.
Why am I even asking?
This black site has everything, right? It's got a pill manufacturing plant. I mean, look at even for Dr. Stearns, like he just like he's able to control all these people. Like there's just there's just a whole lot of nothing. Like he could just do whatever he wants, right? Like
I'm surprised the guy didn't have a pinball machine there. Like, I mean, because if he's got everything in there, like if he's got a pinball machine, I don't know. I can understand why he would never want to leave. But
yeah, dude, just like it just like whatever. This black site, it just has everything that you'd ever want.
It's free rent, dude. Like you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, must be nice. So yeah, I can never get over that. It was just such a silly thing to have. Like, that something is going to be set up from this. It's like, oh, cool. The heart medication you're taking is being created by the person that you've imprisoned and blamed everything on. Well, geez, I wonder if that's going to come back to bite you in the ass.
I mean, that's like in the Middle Ages, how kings were paranoid that their cooks might be putting poison in their food.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it was just bizarre, right? And this is about an hour into the film, right? And I remember specifically after this reveal, right? I like looked at the time and I'm like, how is there still an hour left of this film?
I can't believe it took them that long to make that reveal. I thought they would have figured it out.
I can't believe how long it took for us to even get anywhere with this. Like, I was just sitting there like, how do we have an hour left? Like, I just feel like we just are going to hit the climax here in a moment.
Well, not even that. Not even that. How stupid are these people?
Everyone is stupid. Everyone is stupid from beginning to end, right? So, but yes, we get this reveal that, Stearns is, pulling on the strings. And he's kind of, he wants to get back at Ross. He doesn't necessarily want to kill him. He just wants to kind of like, kind of crush his name, so to say.
Right, because he was denied his freedom, even though he's living there rent free, and really he can manipulate anybody to just let him out.
He can easily get out. Yeah, like he literally could just go out and enjoy his life instead of like having.
Well, I don't know about enjoying. Like, have you seen the guy? He's a freak, basically.
But hey, I mean, if you can control people's minds randomly, then heck, you can just do a whole bunch of stuff. But yes, I agree. He's got some issues there. And I won't even get into the character design was terrible for him too, by the way.
let me ask you this, because we're introduced to another character who ends up joining Sam and Phil in their quest, who is a I have no idea who she is, because she's like some Israeli agent, but she was part of the Red Room, because obviously if you make a Captain America movie, you need a Black Widow in there. So
Yes.
and she was the character where I threw up my hands. And I was like, fuck this movie. Like, if they can't even have Sam Wilson stand on his own 2 feet, if he's got to rely on all these different characters, to help him out, then what good is he?
Yeah.
What did you think of her and what she was doing? Because I was really, really confused about her role.
It's interesting that you brought her up, right? Because for me, I didn't even bother talking about her as I was going through this. And it's really because she's there as just, number one, feels like obviously you're just trying to go for the tie-in, right? Because of course she has to be part of the Red Room. Because God forbid there's like a female character that's just like a female character that could be smart and knows martial arts, but we have to, have her be a widow or whatever like that. So
ScarJo wasn't coming back. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, it's her character, right? It was hard to really get into her because she just, it's just what we've seen 1,000 times, right? It's just like, okay, cool. It's a female character that can kick ass. Like, okay, cool. We've seen this 100 times. You're not really fooling anybody with it. It's just like, it's hard to care. And I honestly just kind of totally ignored talking about her through the whole script because I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to bring her up because there's nothing really important to talk about. She just kicks a bunch of people's asses.
But just her presence alone, I kind of felt like it was necessary to bring it up because they just felt the need. I mean, to your point, they felt the need. We need to have a Black Widow in there because it's a Captain America movie, and Captain America and Black Widow go together like hot fudge sundaes on a hot day.
Yes. It's just bizarre. It was bizarre to me. Like, they throw her in there. And also, like, I don't know, I like to talk about, like, people's, like, I guess, physical presence, right? But the actress that plays her is 5'2".
Yeah.
Like, it's like, dang, like, it's so noticeable how small she is compared to everybody else, which I think doesn't do her any favors in this.
Yeah, but the camera adds like 3 inches, Lee. You're forgetting that.
I guess so. I didn't see where those 3 inches were because God, was she like, she looked like a little dwarf out there, and I feel bad for that because it is what it is, right? Like I don't want to sit here and make fun of anybody's like physical actions, anything, but when you bring in a character like that, it sticks out. So, I think she does a good job of playing like this more like, I guess like more like intellectual thinking character, right? Because she's like, kind of doing all the same things to figure out what's happening. So I think she, does that better. But in that same token, when she's kicking ass, she's like 5'2" and probably barely breaks 100 pounds. And it's kind of hard to roll with that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so in the backdrop of all this happening, right? Because I was trying my best to clean up this convoluted story that they went with for the film. So in the backdrop of all this going, right, we have this kind of friction, and I would say the US and Japan are kind of the main two that are kind of butting heads, and they're fighting over adamantium, right, which is, kind of brings up, think about X-Men, right? So I think this is the first time it's ever really been kind of spoken into the Marvel universe.
Yeah, you're right.
So those out there, we got this adamantium. It was kind of, discovered via the Celestials, right? So once again, if you never watched the Eternals, you're probably wondering what this giant thing is. But they bring up the Celestials, and you have kind of all this friction that's going on, and we see that Stearns has been able to like manipulate or brainwash people. So you see, like, he, takes over some of these American pilots, and they are like attacking Japanese pilots, all in this effort to kind of, start this war, right? And that's ultimately what he's trying to do. But, luckily, Sam and Falcon are there to, save the day. And, here we are. We see them take down these, 2 fighter jets. Takes a long time to get that done. And I always have to remind myself, like, all they had to do was take down 2 fighter jets. And it certainly took them like 10, 15 minutes to do it. But they got it done. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, this is the end, right? It was very anticlimactic how the ending happened, but I mean, everything seems to be done. And I remember going down, and I remember looking at the time, and I was just like, hold on, there's 30 minutes left. What's gonna happen in 30 minutes? And it was like they just were like, oh, but wait a minute, we're gonna have that was like a fake ending. We're gonna have a real ending, right? So this is when we, get a little bit more. And Stearns is like, oh, pesky Captain America, foiled my plans. But I actually have a bigger thing I'm gonna do, right?
I was gonna say like that confrontation between him and Captain America that kind of reminded me of that scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker's like, oh, I took Gotham's White Knight and I drove him mad. That's kind of the same vibe that I got there. It's like,
oh, that's fair.
It's like, oh yeah, you thought you foiled my plans, but wait until the real one comes up.
Yep. Though, ironically, it's like Thaddeus Ross who you're trying to compare to, and that guy is like one bad decision away from freaking out at any moment. So it's like, did he really do anything, or was he just naturally going to fall a victim to this anyways?
Yeah.
So that's a whole other discussion, because I feel like you pick like the worst character to try to be like, oh yeah, well look, I'm gonna ruin Thaddeus Ross's reputation, even though it's been dragged through the mud for decades. But the movie wants to pretend like it's like all like, oh, he's gonna totally upset him. So yeah. So this is where we get kind of the true ending of the film.
Well, you want to put that in quotes because obviously, there are a few other scenes that kind of make you wonder, like, is it really the end or is this the end?
That's true.
That's what I was thinking the entire time.
Yeah, you never really know with this film, but we see that Ross, the medication, the medication he's been taking, has been laced with gamma, so he ends up turning into the Red Hulk because he gets kind of provoked into doing so. And then now we have the Red Hulk going up against Captain America, and my goodness, like, when I think about Marvel, I always think about, really good like CG and everything looks really good. And I will say, I think the Red Hulk looked good, but there's so much of this film looks fake as hell, especially near the end, where it just totally looks like these characters are not existing in the place they are.
I just felt the destruction was kind of pointless. It was. It was like they're just. First they're borrowing from John Frankenheimer, and then near the end they're like, oh, let's borrow from Michael Bay and have all these crazy ass destructions because it worked for Michael Bay, or worked for Roland Emmerich. It'll work for us too.
Yeah, and they're just like sitting there, and it's just like everyone has to know what the Hulk is right now. I'm not trying to say that. I get that there's brave people out there, right? Are you going to be walking up to the Hulk with a handgun?
Well, I'm not gonna. I don't even care if I have a vibranium shield or wingsuit. I'm getting the fuck out of there, man.
Right, exactly.
I'm flying all the way to New York or Avengers Tower, wherever the fuck the Avengers facility is.
Yeah, absolutely right. Like, this is above my pay grade, right? And it's just so funny because you see all these characters out there, right? They're at the White House, and I remember that they're fighting on the rooftop, and then there's a bunch of like people that are up on the rooftop shooting at the Hulk. And I'm like, what are you doing up there? Why are you on the roof? Why would you go after him? You can't do anything. It's a totally useless thing.
I mean, they showed footage earlier of the Hulk fighting the Abomination in New York, so it's not like people don't know what a Hulk can do.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I mean, we've seen the Hulk, right? Like, he's not exactly someone you want to mess with. So, but yeah. So the Hulk, he hulks out and he starts attacking everything. And then Sam kind of like, pulls him away from the city to kind of go fight in this secluded area that's connected with his daughter.
Yeah, the cherry blossom orchard or whatever.
Exactly. So, they're dragging him over there to, kind of do this fight. And the whole time that they're doing the fight, I'm thinking to myself, Captain America can't beat the Hulk, right? He just can't, right?
Yeah,
Now, I don't know.
not even with the super soldier serum, because
Yeah.
there's that one line where he's like, "Man, I should have taken the serum." I'm like,
Yes,
buddy,
yeah.
buddy, you could have taken the serum, as many serums as you want. You wouldn't have been able to beat this motherfucker.
Yeah, you had no shot, right? You're fine. And like I said, I don't know power level, Red Hulk to normal Hulk. What I'm not even gonna get into all that, right? It's a Hulk, right?
They're strong. That's all you need to know.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it's like, okay, you don't stand a chance at this, to me, this is why the film is it just doesn't know what it wants to do with itself, because you have the Hulk be the ultimate villain, right? And to me, you put it's in the trailer, right? You have it on the poster for it, so you build up the Red Hulk, but the Red Hulk has 10 minutes of screen time, right? You have totally pointless action, and then really all Sam does is just he kind of convinces him, like, hey, you know what? You're kind of not that bad of a guy, right? Like, you can change.
Oh, look, cherry blossoms. You remember those?
Yeah. Yeah, remember your daughter, right? Remember how we had to rope in Liv Tyler to do this with us, right?
Yeah. You remember your daughter who absolutely hates you and wants nothing to do with you and thinks you're a fucking monster? Yeah, you remember that? Remember her?
Yeah. Just remember that, right? And that'll make you just calm down. And that's what ends up winning the day. I'm like,
that calms him down. I thought that would have made him even angry, because
I know, right? See,
I would have been like, shit, my daughter hates me.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, thank you for reminding me of the daughter that I'm estranged with because I'm an asshole. Like, that's not gonna make me feel any better. I'm just like, oh my god, like what a terrible way to end the film, where you have your hero, his ability is, I'm just gonna talk you down. Right? Like, what a boring, unclimactic way to finish this off. And it's
keep in mind, the only person who can do that is, Black Widow, but she's dead. And the last person who tried to do it, Thor, he ended up getting his ass handed to him in a gladiatorial ring. So
very true. So, but yeah, that's how it ends. Everything about this, I felt like, bothered me as I watched it again. It's the story by itself is super straightforward, but they made it super convoluted. You introduce all these characters, right? You bring in, Sidewinder, who was totally useless to the story. You didn't even need him to be in it. It was just a total waste to have Esposito in it.
I'll tell you what's funny was, because when they're having the interrogation scene, he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got information about who the buyer is," and I'm thinking, we already know this, dude. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Like, we're gonna get there anyways, because we know that there's something suspicious going on, and then they bring back, like I said, it just feels like a Hulk 2 film as opposed to a new Captain America film. You're relying way too much on bringing together, all these characters, where it's like, oh, Isaiah Bradley, he's from the TV show, and then, hey, we're gonna bring in this Black Widow that we barely talked about because she was barely important to the story. You have all these elements that just get brought together, and then your main villain is a guy from an old Hulk film, right? That everyone's forgotten about.
So old that the original actor has since passed, and they had to replace him with someone else.
Yeah, very true, right? I mean, that is what you did with this film, and as it like rolled up, and it was just like, oh, cool, yeah, like everything kind of happens, and oh, look, Liv Tyler shows up. She's like, sure, I guess this movie is worth 2 minutes of my life, so I'll show up on set for like an hour to film something.
Well, it probably didn't hurt that they also offered her like a butt ton of money to show up.
Oh, I'm sure. So hey,
how can we make it worth your time, Liv?
Yeah, it's just like, cool. It's like, as a Marvel film, we have to like try to just like kind of re-get the Hulk back into the swing of things, because we never really did a standalone Hulk film, right? In the new iteration, so to say. So this is the closest thing we're gonna get. We're just gonna kind of throw some elements of Hulk in there. We'll have Red Hulk, and that'll be good enough. And that's how it ended. And I just didn't care the whole way through. Like, it just reminds me of how much we've seen of this universe, and how tired I am of every film having to try to connect 1,000 stories and 1,000 characters together.
Mhm.
It's just like the movie's just a Frankenstein monster of an idea. And they just can't. I just don't get it. It's almost like the same argument we have over and over again about why they feel the need to stuff everything into these films, and it's like they never learn. Like there's just nothing of this that I was like, oh yeah, that was interesting. Like I can't say I really liked like any of the action. The story definitely wasn't interesting. It definitely wasn't original. Hell, you pretty much just created a worse version of a previous Captain America film.
One of the
So
one of the best Captain America films out there, and they totally tried to copy and paste, and they ruined it in the process.
yeah, really, because I absolutely love the second one. Right, I thought that was great. This one absolutely was a joke in comparison, and you know it's just they moved the goalpost constantly. You got too much stuff going on. It was just a mess, right? And it still came in at just under 2 hours, and I'm honestly kind of surprised by that. I'd imagine that a lot of this was edited down. I
Mhm.
don't think there's any way that they could have done it because, like I said, I mean, there's at least an hour, at least 45 minutes of script that was dumped somewhere because there's so many of these elements that they never got around to. There was never any payoff, or they just like kind of just quickly jumped from person to person. It
Now,
was
didn't
so chaotic.
now correct me if I'm wrong, but did they have to do several reshoots of some scenes for this movie?
I bet all those scenes were at the end
Okay,
because the ending looked like I might as well just be playing a PS4 game.
it's
It
like
was
it's like choose your ending here. You
Yes,
know,
it was just so unbelievably fake looking. I'm like, gosh, this totally takes me out of the film. So, but yes, there's a lot there, and like I said, I imagine that there's a lot of turmoil behind the scenes. I just remember the director being like, "I don't know why people didn't like my film," and I'm like, "Really? Are you sure about that? You can't tell by watching it why people might not like your film."
I mean that's
Um,
like Ridley Scott blaming millennials for not liking
yeah,
for not
yeah.
liking the last duel. You know.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, look, you might think it's great, right? You might have watched it, was like, God, this is a great thing. I watched it and I felt like I just watched a movie that blended way too many people together that you're just trying to force on through, and it didn't work. So I would give this movie, I would give it 1.5 shields out of 5. I just nothing for me really gelled well in this.
I'm going to give it a 1.4 out of 5 just because it's, I mean, there's just so many elements about this movie that irritate me. I mean, and I've mentioned this already, but the biggest one obviously is them just taking earlier Marvel properties and just, replicating them and hoping against all hope that people will like it. I mean, this made Thor the Dark World more palatable because at least Thor the Dark World was actually going somewhere. Yes, it's still a terrible movie, and yes, it doesn't make any sense. But compared to this, it's far more acceptable. Not to mention the fact that to your point, they've stuffed in so many characters, you've lost track of who you're supposed to follow. And also the ending too, it kind of feels like for me, it's a classic example of having too many chefs in the kitchen. You've got so many people going in there saying, well, how about we have this scene? Oh, how about we have a Hulk in there? Yes. How about we have a Celestial? Yes. How about we have Stearns and confronting Captain America, kind of like the brain versus brawn kind of thing? Yes. And at this point, you're like, at some point, someone's got to step in and be like, no, like, this is the direction we got to go with.
That person was like, wait a minute, I just watched Breaking Bad. Let's figure out a way to get Giancarlo Esposito in here.
And another thing too is the fact that they didn't have to go this route. They didn't have to go with the whole espionage thing. I mean, if they really wanted to do something with Sam Wilson, I mean, they could have just waited for the next Avengers movie, and then they can have him show up as the new leader of the Avengers, right? I mean, if they really did need to do a Captain America movie with Sam, they could have done something far more ludicrous. They could have done an alien invasion, like I said earlier, right? That would have made far better sense than having to do this, where they're trying to maybe do an espionage, maybe do a murder mystery, maybe do a political thriller, maybe do science fiction, and end up not making a whole ton of sense in the process, because I feel bad for Anthony Mackie because he's just sitting in the back and like, okay, well, I guess I'll just stand here and hold a shield, and you'll know it's
Yeah.
a Captain America movie. Like, as long as you get shots of him holding the shield, like every so often, you'll know it's a Captain America movie. Because otherwise, you're gonna think it's a Hulk movie.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
But did you have any final thoughts on Brave New World, the ineffective remake of The Winter Soldier?
I guess just one final thing I'll end on, right, is just don't be afraid to make a story that just stands by itself, right? Stop having to try to interconnect everything. I'm so tired of it because like you pointed out, 100 years, right? We're almost 100 years worth of, comics and stories that you could have taken from. And instead you just want to make it like some type of rehash of the Hulk, right? It's just pointless. Just do something unique, do something that's out there already. Like, if you can't come up with something original, at least use one of the good story arcs that are out there for Captain America. Just do something else other than just trying to like force a character. Like he wasn't even the main focus of this whole thing. It's just like Captain America, but there's Red Hulk. So there was just too much. So
here's my thing. I mean, I think the problem is that Marvel decided, hey, let's do movies and TV shows, right? If you already did a TV show with Sam Wilson as Captain America, that should be good enough. I don't know why you feel the need to have him do a movie as well. I mean, because there really isn't anything else he's going to add apart from him, flying around with a shield, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because what is he doing in Brave New World that we already haven't seen in the miniseries? That's my thing.
Yeah.
And if you think about it too, what they were doing in the series isn't too dissimilar. What I was saying was like, I mean, what you see in the series and what you see in the TV in the movies, they're pretty much the same thing. So if you're going to do something that for Captain America, have him do something that's completely different. Have him do, I mean, have him do something that's completely far left field. Take him out of his comfort zone, because it seems like, for whatever reason, everybody feels like Sam Wilson functions best when he's in a spy thriller. I mean, and another thing too is the fact that we've already seen him, do his thing in the series. What's going to make him any more different from what we're seeing in the movie, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, apart from him fighting a Red Hulk, which was a completely stupid move on his part, but it is what it is. And also, I got to mention with the post-credit scene, they also seem to see the need to remind people, hey, we're still doing the multiverse thing. Did you guys forget about that? I hope you didn't forget about it. We're gonna have Samuel Stearns tell Sam, oh, there's like so many different variations of you heroes out there. And my thing is, how the fuck does he know about the multiverse? Like, I mean, I can accept him knowing how to make gamma pills more than him all of a sudden being aware that there is a multiverse and different variants of the same character.
Yeah, it's just.
But yeah, Lee, why don't you go and take us out here?
Yeah, no, I appreciate everyone for sitting here. Liz has rambled once again on another subpar Marvel film. Definitely let us know what you liked about it if you did like it, because I'm always very curious. There's stuff that I think that me and Luca could obviously miss, and we just kind of focus on things that maybe we shouldn't focus on. So I'm always interested to see what other people think about it, and thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and don't get heat stroke outside, because it's damn hot here in the States. So
definitely stay hydrated, everybody. But but the next review we'll be doing is going to be James Gunn's Superman, which comes out on which comes out next month. Well, because we're recording in June, it'll be coming up July 12th, I believe, or 11th. Sorry.
Oh god, that's a lot closer than I thought.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks away, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.
If anyone knows where Blonsky is, it's his old pal, the leader, who's locked up here. Leader refused to talk unless we give him half the reward. Yeah, right. We countered by offering Big Brain a book of crossword puzzles. Never met a bored genius yet who could resist them. Faster than you can say wanna cross? Leader squeal. Blonsky,